What if the greatest fear we hold, death, is not the end, but the doorway to a new beginning? What if, instead of the final chapter, death is the key to unlocking a deeper, eternal truth within us? In the Gnostic teachings of Arcanum 13, death is a process of profound transformation. Death of the ego, the false self that binds us to suffering, opens the path to spiritual rebirth. But this journey requires more than intellectual understanding. It demands the courageous work of dissolving ego day by day with the guidance of the Divine Mother. She is the force within us that nurtures our transformation, helping us cut away the false so the true essence can bloom. Through these teachings, we learn that death is not just about the end of life, it is about the rebirth of the soul, the emergence of virtues long hidden beneath the weight of ego. In this video, we'll explore how to apply these ancient teachings in your own life, uncovering the hidden power of Arcanum 13 and revealing the path to spiritual immortality within. Imagine a man standing at the edge of a journey he never knew he needed to take. His life filled with frustrations, anger, and reactive impulses feels heavy, as if something essential is missing. He feels trapped by his emotions, stuck in cycles he can't break. But tonight, something is different. He sits in quiet meditation and begins to wonder, in reflection, what if there is another way? As his awareness grows inward, observing thoughts, emotions, physicality, and even perhaps energies, he realizes within this awareness is the loving presence of his Divine Mother. She is there, not as a distant concept, but as a guiding force within. She is unattached, unconditional awareness, consciousness, the love of a mother. He understands that his anger and pride and other negative emotions are not who he truly is. They are just masks. And now, for the first time, through his meditation practice and the help of his Divine Mother, he senses a new space of inner sight. He observes how these masks, these egos, can and must fall away. Death is feared by most and often misunderstood. In the Gnostic teachings, death is not the end, but the necessary process of transformation. In Arcanum 13, the Hierarch wielding the scythe is a symbol of this transformation. The scythe can cut through the ego and clear a path for spiritual rebirth. This work requires the conscious petition of our Divine Mother and transmutation of our sexual energy, because they are one and the same. Only our Divine Mother can dissolve false egoic identities that mask us from our true essence. However, like the hierarchs, the angels of death who work for the Divine Mother, we must learn to do our part in this process. The hierarch reaps the wheat, separating what is pure from what is false. Just as the man experiences death and ego dissolution, the teachings remind us that this process is not meant to harm, but to bring life through rebirth. Each cut of the scythe, or in other words, each moment of inner observation and remembrance of one's Divine Mother and inner being, petitioning for comprehension, ego death, clears the path for the essence to flourish. It separates the wheat, our essence, from the chaff, our egos. This is how death becomes key to liberation. A man's life begins to change, and though the road has been difficult, he now understands that every moment of frustration and anger is an opportunity for transformation. He sees the hierarch in his mind, the one holding the scythe. He feels that the scythe is not something external, but a force within. Scythe is a symbol of his will, aligned with his divine mother, aligned with his being. It is pure awareness that cuts through layers of ego that binds his consciousness, trapping it, his essence. He envisions the wheat fields of his mind, ripe with old thoughts, habits, and desires. As the scythe moves, it slices away what no longer serves him. He no longer resists, but trusts the process, observing his habits, his thoughts, his negative emotions. Each egoic desire that he denies only helps to liberate his essence. He knows that this work of cutting through falsehood, though at times painful, is essential for his soul to grow. His heart is becoming lighter, his inner vision clearer, and his essence, like the wheat, begins to bloom in the light of the sun, his awareness. Ego death is not something we face alone, necessarily. It is a gradual, loving process guided by our Divine Mother. In Gnostic teachings, the Divine Mother is the force that dissolves the ego, not through force, but conscious, loving awareness. She helps us comprehend the roots of our egos, like anger, pride, lust, until we are ready to let them go. Meditation, prayer, mantras, and daily petitions for her help are essential to this process. This transformation doesn't happen all at once. Each day, as we call upon the Divine Mother moment to moment to help us dissolve our egos, we take another step towards spiritual freedom, towards immortality. Our Divine Mother works within us, patiently unraveling the threads of falsehood and guiding us toward the light of our essence. The man, once overwhelmed by anger, now begins to experience the gentle presence of his Divine Mother. Her guidance is quiet, subtle, and yet so powerful. Each time he meditates, he asks her for help. He can feel his egoic anger rising, but instead of reacting, he observes it. He calls upon her to help him comprehend. He remains infinitely patient, relaxing, and observing his inner world. In a moment of deep stillness, he feels her love envelop him. The anger, which once felt so heavy and inescapable, begins to dissolve. Each time he faces the anger, it weakens. It no longer defines him. With each petition to his Divine Mother, he senses the gradual death of his ego, layer by layer, as she lovingly clears the path for his true self to emerge. The teachings of Arcanum 13 remind us that the path to spiritual rebirth requires both willpower and discernment. The Divine Mother may guide us, but it is our willpower that fuels the process. In the Gnostic teachings, the three brains, intellectual, emotional, and motor instinctive sexual, must be balanced in this process. These centers are often distorted by egoic impulses, leading to the misuse of vital energy, our sexual energy that we transmute daily. But through willpower and daily self-observation, we can bring these centers into greater harmony, conserving more energy and aligning ourselves with the will of our being. The key lies in learning to differentiate between egoic will and the will of the being. Our Divine Mother helps us cultivate the will of the being, guiding us to align our actions, thoughts, and emotions with our higher nature, rather than the fleeting desires of the ego. As the man practices day by day, month by month, he starts to recognize the difference between his egoic will and the will of his being. There are moments when his ego demands control over a situation, over other people, even over himself. But he knows now that this is the voice of the ego, trying to cling to power. In contrast, the will of the being is quiet, but steady. It is patience, humility, understanding. Each time he calls on his Divine Mother for guidance, he feels a subtle shift, a growing strength that doesn't seek to dominate, but to align with a higher inner purpose. He understands that the true use of willpower is not about forcing change, but allowing the process of transformation to unfold naturally. With every act of conscious restraint and inner observation, he feels his essence growing stronger. He feels his consciousness awakening. The Hebrew letter Mem, representing water, symbolizes the purifying force of life and death. In Arcanum 13, the waters of Mem can help to cleanse the soul of karmic debts. Just as the ego must die, so too must we purify the unconscious mind, where karma is stored. The Divine Mother guides us through this purification, helping us to balance the scales of karma through our voluntary suffering and conscious efforts of willpower, fire. As we work with the fire and the water to dissolve our egos, the Divine Mother purifies the waters of our soul, allowing us to experience spiritual rebirth. The man reflects by the edge of the lake, watching the still water, which now represents his inner mind. He feels the weight of his past actions, his karmic debts, his egos, but he also feels the presence of his Divine Mother, purifying these waters, helping him dissolve the karmic residue that has held him back. Each day, with every meditation, he feels the scales of karma tip, balancing slowly, as the ego dissolves and the soul is reborn. He sees that this process, like the flow of water, is slow but steady. He knows now that spiritual rebirth is not a single moment, but a lifetime of transformation. Each time he calls upon his Divine Mother, each time he chooses the will of his being over the ego, the waters of Mem continue their purifying work in his inner worlds. And with each step, he moves closer to the divine light of his being within. As we conclude our exploration of Arcanum 13, we return to its core teachings. Death, symbolized by the scythe carried by the Hierarch, is not an end, but a process of transformation. It cuts away the false layers of the ego, allowing the essence to rise and flourish. This is not a swift process. It requires daily meditation, moment to moment, conscious self-observation, moment to moment, and petitions to the Divine Mother, who is always there. It is she who lovingly helps us dissolve the egos, guiding us through the cycles of death and rebirth that ultimately lead to the awakening of our soul. The waters of the Hebrew letter Mem represent the unconscious mind as well, where karmic debts accumulate, but also where purification can take place, and must take place. As we balance the scales of karma through voluntary suffering, conscious effort, and devotion, we experience spiritual rebirth. In this work, we cultivate the virtues of the soul, symbolized by the flowers on Arcanum 13, patience, compassion, humility that grow through the death of the ego and the nurturing of our Divine Mother. This journey is one of endurance and persistence, infinite willpower and infinite patience. Each act of willpower is a step toward purifying the unconscious mind, releasing the ego, and awakening the essence. With each effort, we come closer to the light within, allowing our virtues to blossom like the flowers of the soul, and allowing us to connect with our inner being who can guide us on when to use those virtues and when to be silent. For those of us seeking to deepen their understanding, we've provided links to further resources in the description of this video. You'll find recommended books, additional videos, and other Gnostic teachings that will guide you as you work with the teachings of Arcanum 13 and any related Gnostic practices. Continue exploring the path, and remember, this work requires great diligence and infinite patience, but it offers the gift of liberating the soul and achieving immortality. The man, sitting quietly at the water's edge, reflects on his journey. The anger that once defined him has faded, replaced by the stillness of understanding. He feels the presence of his Divine Mother, whose guidance has nurtured his inner transformation. What was once dark and heavy within him is now lighter, like the clear waters of a lake that reflect the sky. As he meditates, he notices something new. Within him, something is blooming. He sees a great field of flowers, Arcanum 13, symbols of the virtues that have grown in the death of his egos. Where anger once ruled, there is now compassion. Where pride once stood tall, there is now humility. Each day, through the loving help of his Divine Mother, these virtues grow stronger, nurtured by the purifying waters of Mem. He knows now that spiritual rebirth is not the end of his journey, but a continuous process. Each prayer, each moment of meditation, each act of willpower towards his being brings him closer to the truth of awakening his essence. As the sun rises over the lake, he feels a quiet inner resolve. This path is long, but it is the path to freedom. He invites others to join him on this journey, reminding them that through the death of the ego, the light of the soul, of the being, is born.